We are now live again. This is take two for those of you that were with us earlier. I'm Vicki, and I am working as the engagement coordinator for ISTA. And this is my very first Instagram Live. And today we are doing a member spotlight, and we're going to be joined by Alexis Dahl, who is a middle school drama teacher at the International School of Zug in Luzern. So I can see that Alexis has joined us. And I am just going to invite her into the room. Hello, Alexis.
Hi.
We did it.
We did it. And it is like live theater.
It is very much like live theater. I was just thinking this morning when I did my practice run with Carrie Ann, our social media coordinator, that for any theater teacher that has been missing that sense of adrenaline or butterflies before your students perform live,
Yes.
just try Instagram Live, okay?
Totally. That's it.
My recommendation. So thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you are at school and this is being fit in between your classes, but we would really like to just spend a few minutes today to get to know some of our members and to hear about what you're doing at your school. And then hear about a project that the International School of Zug and Luzern was involved in. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to hand over to you. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in Zug and Luzern.
Great. Yeah, I'm the middle school drama teacher here at ISTA. I am also the art subject coordinator in the middle school for visual arts and music and drama. And this is my third year here, but I used to teach her actually years ago. I was here, then I moved to New York to teach at a school there, and I taught theater and playwriting in middle and high school, and here I am back again. And it's been such an incredible, working with ISTA has been just amazing for me since the first time I worked at ISL, and it's something I've thought about when I was away. The high school drama teacher here, Vicki Allen, she's been working with ISTA for many years. And in fact, when I was thinking a little bit about like, what's the history of our school with ISTA, I had to write her and be like, what's your history? Because it's been quite a long time that she's, had festivals here, and she traveled, she, from her previous schools, brought her work with ISTA here. So it's just such an incredible connection we feel with the organization. So inspiring. So and then, gosh, the last time, before COVID, I got to go actually to a primary school festival with our primary school performing arts teacher, Christy Kelly. And that was the last thing we got to do before, COVID happens, everything shuts down. I'm kind of working very independently during our lockdown here in Switzerland at the end of last school year. We had planned to go to Malta, to bring a group of students to Malta, and obviously all those things kind of canceled. And then so this year, we got into the flow of things, and this question came up of, we were working on this big project in our middle school, an IDU across visual arts, music, and drama. And we think, what could bring the music video project sort of to the next level. And as a team, we met and we talked about it, all right, so we should, maybe we could bring in some cool artists, et cetera. And it was sort of like this eureka moment of like, why aren't we, absolutely tapping into ISTA right now? Why aren't we reaching out? And so I said, I've got it. And that began our journey with me being in touch with Sophie Galton, and just saying, what do you think? Here's our project. And I kind of laid out what the overview was. What do you think is possible? And that was sort of the inspiration for the project that we had, the sort of one-day virtual festival that we did here for our entire seventh grade class, which is a little over 100 students.
Wow. I mean, I just to sort of back up a little bit, I have had the good fortune of attending festivals as a teacher and as a rep. at ISTA, and I know that the ISTA spirit is so strong in the school. And I think that, the fact that there is a history there and you've got some, highly engaged teachers, that was wonderful, because this project that you did with your 7th graders really was something new for all of us. And so having that collaboration between the teachers and with Sophie, your event coordinator, just something wonderful grew out of that. And I know that it's sort of been branded as a virtual in-school festival, but it was so much more. Yeah. And so can you tell me, you started off with a project, and how did you and Sophie, your engagement or your event coordinator, work to develop that project into being?
I would say that one of the things that we talked about were sort of, all right, what are the end goals of this project? And then sort of what, and those would be kind of concrete, like very like product oriented. So what is it that I, as a teacher, the music video project is basically, the 7th grade students were challenged by having to think about some kind of global theme, some kind of global interaction, and a topic that would become sort of the lens through which they were going to write a song, an original song in bands. They had to consider that theme, that topic, what kind of impact they want to have on their audience. Then they had to design sort of the production design, the set, and then now we're in the final phase of it, which is they are recording an original music video. They will be syncing their original songs, and then we'll kind of launch these original music videos that these students created over the course of a year that gave a chance for the music teacher and myself to work. So we kind of thought about, like, what is the final product and what are some of the skills that the students need for that? And then, of course, in the conversations with Sophie, the step back is like, okay, yes, we know that that's a concrete end product that we want, but what sort of are the bigger themes, the bigger processes, what parts of the students do you want to give them a chance to more fully explore? And so how can we lend sort of ISTA's expertise, what we do best, to that project? And some of that was led by who are the artists that she was going to pull in for this. So we had sort of like a movement expert. Well, all of our ISTA people, all the ISTA artists, I would say, are very well versed in like movement, but sort of a more dance choreography background was one of the artists got pulled in. We thought a lot about, okay, camera work and sort of students getting comfortable with being on camera and what does it mean for their gaze, where is the placement of the gaze and how that communicate to an audience. So, we talked about, that's kind of coming out of a bunch of different ways, but there was sort of the macro and then the micro. I think that's sort of how it laid out. And
with Sophie helping you find the artists that were going to help you realize this end product.
Absolutely.
And I think something that we've discovered this year is that even though travel restrictions are global and they're changing constantly, that because we're bringing the artists in virtually so much, our access to our artist pool has just increased like you wouldn't believe, because we can now Zoom in Matt Godfrey from California. I believe
incredible.
Him as one of your artists. And I think Christina Fulcher came in from the UK.
Yep.
And so
Alan Brooks was in Germany.
Yeah. So you do truly have an international team working with you from all over the globe. And can you tell me, like, how did that work on the ground? Any of us that have been to ISTA festivals, the festival structure, there's whole group ensemble work at the beginning, and then the students are divided up into smaller ensembles with their student ensemble leader. How did that work for this one-day creative event with your 7th graders?
Okay, so I'm going to rewind because it's also relevant to exactly this question. Okay. One of the things that I think was also really remarkable is that because these artists have had so much practice now working virtually, that they are so quick to adapt and to know exactly what they need, what works best, when streaming them in, what sorts of ways that they can interact and they can with the students, and therefore what are the tech requirements for that. And I do think that that's something I really was impressed by in terms of I don't think, I know a lot of artists in my life, but these ISTA artists are really, in particular, well-versed in how to work in this format. And I think that that is not something that everyone is equally adept at doing, right? So I just wanted to point that out. So yeah, so the tech piece. So one of the things that we had to work out, okay, we treated each homeroom, which is about 20 students, as an ensemble. It works well with our project because in each homeroom, the students are in their bands. We couldn't have the students kind of cross-populating with other homerooms in terms of building these bands just because of our timetable. So we thought, great, let's treat each homeroom as the ensemble itself. And then they were paired with an artist. And in terms of them mapping these things out with Sophie, we talked about what are the space requirements, where should these artists and ensembles be connected, and that, those questions then come up as like, where is your best Wi-Fi connection for the day? Where is the best tech tools in terms of like, okay, I'm going to run this, we're going to run the Zoom interaction platform through this desktop computer. I'm going to have a remote camera over here. The kids can see the artist on the smart board, but then the artist said, yeah, but I might want to have breakout, private interactions with each band so that I can give them feedback or talk to them without maybe everyone in the room having to stop what they're doing and listen. So what we did was we ended up using Google Hangouts as well and like having an iPad. And so like the ISTA artist was both on the Zoom call and on the Google Hangout, which is kind of like mobile around the room. And it sounds nuts, but it's, if you have, which we also had homeroom teachers, a variety of other teachers who might be teaching those students normally at that time, they kind of became the assistant to the ISTA artist. So whatever sort of glitches or requests or resources that might be needed on the spot, that ISTA artist could then immediately turn to that teacher and say, oh, can you do this for me? And the teacher would be on it. So, one example of that would be, we had Alan Brooks, who was in Germany. He was connecting with two of our teachers were sort of his assistants in the theater space. And Alan and Karen Messina, one of our teachers, kind of had an immediate bond. She's a dancer from years gone by and a mover. And so she was in there with him the whole day. If there was any sound issues, she could adjust. If he wanted to play sound through in the space rather than through, the Zoom platform, she could, do that for him, and also pick up the Google Hangout and like zoom in for him if he wanted to see or speak with students up close.
That sounds like a wonderful opportunity for your non-arts teachers, for your colleagues who are teaching in the other subject areas, to actually see what happens in the ISTA environment and to get involved. And I think that's incredible sort of, I don't want to say passive PD because it's not something they have signed up for, but it's there, it's embedded in what's happening, and how that's amazing. And I'm having this vision of teachers running around with iPads and the artists on them, like, headless or bodiless heads moving around talking to the kids.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. We had, I have pictures of exactly that, like 3 kids like huddled around with the teacher just holding up the iPad, them all engaging, and then it's like the teacher drops that, moves on to another group, those kids keep working with that artist. And back to this PD thing, I think that that's something is, I have a group of teachers here who either have had some experience with ISTA maybe at a previous school or maybe even here, and who were, who love drama and love incorporating theatrical work into their like Ling and Lit classes. And these are people who, when I say like, I want to do this festival, they're like, sign me up. This is my chance for exactly what you're saying, getting that PD opportunity over the course of the day, learning alongside the students, facilitating that. And then, one thing that came out of this incredible experience is those teachers were so hyped up at the end of the day that one of them said, the only thing I was missing from like a true ISTA festival, like live, is those breakout sessions where all of the teachers would get to break off with an artist and do that PD work. And so again, I just went back to Sophie and I was like, okay, these teachers said, this is what they were missing. Can we do, instead of one of our middle school faculty staff meetings, maybe we could have an extension, a PD afternoon with the ISTA artists. And my principal was, of course, on board for that. And so it, it was voluntary, but like a bunch of those teachers came back into the room with a couple of our ISTA artists for, I think it was an hour and 15 minutes or so, to just do and look at some of that work. Teachers who hadn't been able to be a part of the ISTA festival, that virtual festival here that day because they were teach on other grade levels, were able to sign up and participate and get to tap into some of that experience from that day.
That's amazing. And this all happened in your school day, in your school. Nobody had to travel. No one had to arrange for a substitute or someone to take care of their classes. And I think that's what, when we started working on these virtual festivals, I think even at ISTA, we didn't really know how it was going to work. But this is something that we've discovered that's really exciting, that by working with the schools and working with your schedule, working with your time constraints, we can create whatever it is. We can work together to create whatever it is you need. And we are able to work with teachers who we wouldn't have been able to work with before. So like in your faculty meeting, that's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, now, what about the kids? How did the kids respond to this experience? Because I would imagine if some of them had been to a face-to-face festival before, they might have some expectations. Or if they were completely new to ISTA, well, this is ISTA, right? So there must have been a range of responses.
Yeah, I think there is that. This is a piece of it that felt like a little bit like a dance, because under normal circumstances, I would say, who wants to attend an ISTA festival, right? And so one of the things that we were doing is saying that everyone is going to be doing this. This is part of sort of our curriculum.
Yes.
So students who might otherwise feel like, whoa, that's not for me, this is not for me, are still necessarily being brought on board. And that was something that we discussed with the ISTA artists about having that sort of sensitivity to what are the students' expectations or even what kind of vulnerabilities might they experience. So I would say by and large, the students reacted with a lot of enthusiasm,
Yeah.
a lot of sort of at times in the day, just like laughing at themselves, and they're like, oh my gosh, there was like those moments of like, I can't. But then there was also, I think something that helps is that because it was connected to a target. So even though we would say we did have ensemble work that happened with their own ISTA artists, and then the students got to select workshops that they would do with a different artist. For one period of the day, and where they got to mix up with other classes. I think in those moments where they were able to kind of tailor to what those students' particular interests might be. I think one of the things that we did confront was like just exhaustion. Like it's this physical, and by the end of the day, the kids were wiped, or just, I remember right before lunchtime, the kids were kind of like little pools on the floor. They were just, wiped out. And it's something to consider about that piece of stamina, particularly for kids who have never done ISTA before and don't know that's what it's like.
Yeah, you just go. And I would imagine, has your school been online learning prior to coming back, being fortunate enough to come back together?
Yeah.
Had you been doing online learning?
We're really lucky here in Switzerland. So we had last spring basically was virtual, was online. And then in the last 3 weeks of the year, we had this kind of staggered grade level bubbles alternating on campus. But then this entire year we've been on campus with heightened restrictions. Yeah, I mean, like the grade levels can't mix. We don't have any after school activities, which is another thing that I think we had to wrap our head around, which is, and I think for schools who also might have those same restrictions, which is everything, like you said, has to happen during the school day, and to some degree had to follow our exact teaching block schedule, because there are a lot of parameters around lunch and break times, and messing with that schedule we couldn't, right? Because it's about pathways and spaces and access and who is allowed to have contact with who.
And working with one grade level, the other grade levels are still going about their every day. Yep. Schedule, so you have to be able to have them coincide. Yeah. Wow. So I'm so thrilled that this happened. I mean, I think ISZL's festival, one day festival, was the second festival that we put up, and with 100 students, like 100 students, that was incredible. If you were going to give some advice to schools that are thinking about, how they can continue to bring, the ISTA spirit and the ISTA way, the ISTA method of, working collaboratively, giving kids, creative life agency to create what it is they want to create, and also give them access to some artists outside of their own teachers. What advice could you give to anybody
Yeah.
thinking about that, or thinking about, well, how can we continue with this if we can't travel, or if we can't, have the
Yeah.
artists come in?
Absolutely. Okay. So there's two things. One is just write ISTA and be like, this is my idea, help. I mean, honestly, it really began with me writing Sophie and just saying, this is my crazy idea. What do you think? Because I think that you are the experts, and given your flexibility, that you've got the people who are going to be able to kind of mirror back and ask those probing questions to get the ball rolling. And I think it's okay to come at it completely from a total beginner standpoint and say, this is what I would like to, but I don't know where to begin, because ISTA will do that. We'll hold your hand through it. That's the first thing I'm going to say. The second thing I'm going to say is it's a lot about, it's the tech and what you have operating in your school. And, one of the things that the artist said was, Alexis, we're going to have sort of like a tech rehearsal, a tech run prior to this. And, you think as a drama teacher, I would know that, like, that's a necessary requirement. But I was like, oh, right, you're going to need a tech run. And what basically that meant was, like, I believe it was on a weekend, or it bumped up right against sort of the end of a break that we had. I came in where our tech team was on campus, like our tech support staff were here. And I reserved sort of their time for the day to consult and to go through, check out the spaces, ask my questions, say, originally I thought, I think one of the things I said was that I would love to have everything kind of running through a remote camera, but it actually made a lot more sense for it to be just done through the desktop. You really need to do all that kind of tech check. And, again, Sophie was saying, this is what we need in terms of support of staff on that day. And there was more support than I had originally thought about. And then in the end, again, it made total sense. You want to have a designated teacher sort of paired with that ISTA artist, because then there's no sort of having to repeat instructions or repeat sort of queries. They have that contact in it, and it works. I think Zoom was a really great platform for doing this. We did use, Google Hangout as sort of like ancillary support.
Excuse me for a minute. I've got a call coming in.
That's amazing.
It was Tom from the ISTA office. I don't know if
Oh my God.
If he was trying to tell us that we're coming close to the end of our time together.
Great.
But I have so many more questions that I want to ask you. But we are coming to the end of our time. So, Alexis, do you have any other what are your plans for the next few weeks, or what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about ISTA in the future? How we can continue to work together?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I would love to do something live here next year. Obviously, so much depends on what happens with restraints. I think the next step for me would be, no matter what, now that we've done this once, connecting with another school and doing this. And because I do think that kind of it's exciting for kids to get to connect with other students in other places. And so, and now that I've done it once, I'm just like, well, it's totally feasible. It's totally reasonable. It can work. I would say, yeah, I hope I'm answering the questions that people need. And that if anyone, of course, wants to brainstorm and talk more, I'm always available about, certainly around what's the logistics, the day-to-day logistics of something like this. We are doing YFS, the Youth Forum Switzerland next year is hosted by our school, and we'll be, I know they'll be reaching out to other schools, and that festival has, that Youth Forum is run by students, and one of the things that they're really looking at is the arts. So I know I'll be connecting with ISTA for that, and seeing if other schools would be interested in doing this sort of music video project where there might be sort of a dialogue around both the songwriting or the music video production. So we want to kind of connect, I think, with more schools around
that
ideas.
would be amazing. I know we are working with schools to do connected festivals where the schools are working together on the same event. So we do have we have some pilot projects running, and again, with every new thing that we do, whether it's Instagram Live or whether it's running an in-house festival with 5 artists zooming in from around the world, we're learning so much this year. And we're also learning just how much potential is out there for collaborating. And I think that's an amazing outcome of this somewhat challenging year, you know? That we've learned how to keep the connections going, but perhaps in different ways. Alexis, you heard everybody. Alexis said, if you've got any questions,
totally.
she'd be happy to help. Are you on the ISTA Facebook members hub? Are you a Facebook user?
I'm not a Facebook user.
Okay.
I went.
I was going to say, perhaps people could reach out to you there. But if you do have questions or would like to know more, please get in touch with me or anyone at the ISTA office, Sophie, and we'll put you in touch with Alexis, and you can maybe brainstorm with her. But Alexis, I'd really like to thank you for your time and for your patience and for upgrading your Instagram.
Thanks for your patience with me.
Okay. And thanks to everyone who is watching or who will be watching. I just wanted to say that there's a lot of exciting things going on at ISTA. We are always eager to talk to our members about what you want, what ideas you have, and to work with you to create something that's unique for your school. So I'll end here, but I'd just like to say, please join us again on May 20th. We have a Facebook Live with the ISTA team, where the team members and Sally Robertson will be talking about getting back to normal and what that means and what our plans are for 2021, 2022. So we'll be sharing all of the great things we've got in the works then. But until then, thank you, Alexis. Please say hi to the whole team in Luzern, and enjoy that beautiful view that you've got from your cafeteria of the mountains. And I hope that we'll see you in person or perhaps on a screen soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.